I am a huge supporter of the Hyperbell, as I have both the barbell and easy curl bar versions in order to attach my core fitness dumbbells to in my home gym setup. And I saw that J-Flex made their own resistance bands attachments, so I thought maybe I could upgrade my own personal one I have with their setup, but I was wrong. So with that, I'm going to go over what you get from J-Flex with the Hyperbell resistance bands setup and see if it's something you can use in your home gym, but I pretty much assure you it won't be. Now before I jump into this, because I already own the Hyperbell, both the barbell and easy curl bar versions, I didn't need to buy their larger package as it is really expensive. I got to buy the cheapest option that only comes with the bands, ankle straps, and a couple other items. And today is June 26th of 2023, and I took a screenshot I'm going to put up for you now showing what the bundles are if you bought them today. These could change in the future, but it's something you can look at and see if it's within your price range. So again, I had the lowest package at around the $60 mark, but if you bought the entire thing with both bars, it could get as high as $300, which is a lot of money for this simple setup. My actual setup with my standard resistance bands, the loop bands, and all my attachments would actually cost less than this if you went that route. So now you know I got the cheapest package. Let's do the unboxing and see what you get. First off, you get 5 different resistant loop bands. They all have a different kind of shade of gray on them, and they tell you the values right on the bands themselves as to what they are, and they go from 10 all the way up to 50 pounds in increments of 10. And do note this resistance will change as you stretch the band, so it is variable resistance. So 10 is how I would actually track them, but do note that actual resistance does change as the band is stretched. Next up is the most unique part of the package, and that's because it has the rope connectors that go on the Hyperbell clamp. So again, it does not matter if you have the barbell or easy curl bar version. Either will work as those clamps are the same. Moving along, you'll also get 2 resistance bands handles that attach to the carabiners on the resistance bands themselves. Alongside that, you'll get 2 ankle straps I have no intent on ever using, but do know if you do use them, they are in the package. You'll also get a door anchor. This is pretty similar to every door anchor I've ever used. It's not too bad in testing, but do know you get one as well. And lastly, you'll get a bag that fits all the resistance bands. I personally don't really like any of the bags they ever have for these products, so I do have my own drawstring bag I'll leave a link to in the description, but you can fit all the bands in this bag for easy travel. So next I'm going to go over how you actually set up the Hyperbell to the resistance bands in this package. So regardless of the barbell or easy curl bar versions, you're going to undo the clamp at the end by twisting off the red connector and then opening the clamp to put that rope attachment in. From there, make sure to close the clamp on the bar and twist back on the red locking mechanism, as you're going to need that in place to then attach one of the resistance bands to the circle piece on the end using the carabiner hook. Feel free to attach as many bands as you'd like, as all 5 will fit. Just know it is a very tight fit if you go for all 5. The 4 is okay, but the 5th one can be a little tricky to get on. And that is it. This setup doesn't have any kind of standing platform or anything like that. You simply would just stand on the bands or use one of the anchor points in order to use it yourself. Now it does have additional attachments like the handles that you could use or even the ankle straps, but again, that's not really what I'm focusing on here. Just know that it does come with those if you'd like to use those instead. Now on these bands, it does say what the resistance level of them is. Now usually you see a range, but they just gave a straight up number on here. So I'm going to go over what each of the resistance ratings of these bands are. So first off, you have the X small band, and they put it at a rating of 10 pounds. Next up, you have the small band, and it has a rating of 20 pounds. Moving to our third band, we have the medium, which comes in a rating at 30 pounds. Next up is the heavy band, and this one has a rating of 40 pounds. And our last and strongest or heaviest band is the X heavy that comes in at 50 pounds. Alright, so with all that said, here are my thoughts after running some tests and actually using the bands with some exercises in my home gym. So right off the bat, these bands are way too easy to use with most exercises, meaning you can actually have way too much slack in the band for most of the bigger lifts, including exercises such as deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, suitcase squats, and more. So my conclusion on this is basically any exercise where you're from the waist down is not going to work very well. So again, those exercises like I mentioned, deadlift being one of them, where you basically lower your hands closer to the ground, eventually you'll basically have no resistance and even slack in the band, causing it to be way too easy and just not an effective stimulus to actually build any meaningful muscle. Of course, this may depend on your fitness level, but I think anyone's going to quickly grow out of these bands, making them pretty much worthless. Now, because of this, I actually took out my step platform, which gives you an extra 4 inches, but even with that, we still have the same problem. So even with that additional 4 inches of stretch in the bands, I still found that when lowering to the ground, I just ran into the issue of basically having no tension in the band at all. As you go up, of course, you get some, but it's really not that much. Even with all the bands attached, all 5 of them at once, it's very easy for me to do something like a Romanian deadlift. Now, where the bands kind of work is anything above the waist. So if you're doing bicep curls, they work okay. Overhead presses is actually probably the best exercise I did with them. And also you don't have the bands like from the loop band coming up in front of your face. So you just have the bar going overhead. So that's where it probably shines the most. Is anything, again, waist higher, especially if they're over shoulder height, it does work very well. So this would also include exercises such as overhead triceps extensions. So my final thoughts on the Hyperbell Resistance Bands home gym setup by J-Flex. First up, it is a very expensive setup if you need to buy a bar with the resistant bands, especially since you can't do, in my opinion, half the exercises I want to do. Why would I pay $300 for the setup when my personal one is actually cheaper and works far better in my opinion? And also, I think that J-Flex nailed the Hyperbell, both barbell and easy curl bar, for the initial thought of using it with dumbbells. Now, my take is stay with the dumbbells and just make bigger and better, stronger clamps for your bars. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel and get into the resistant bands, because that is not where you should be going. Again, I think this is very far from what is acceptable for a home gym. That's coming from someone who actually has a code with them to actually save you money on products like this. So again, I really don't like this product. It's actually like on the par with the Rise Ups that they also have. J-Flex has some great products in their line, including the bars themselves and the cross grips. I really like those, but this one is just one I feel like just had way too much overthought, didn't have proper testing behind it, and really just doesn't hit the mark when it comes to a good home gym product. So J-Flex, keep working on making the Hyperbell better with the dumbbells and just drop the resistant bands entirely. Again, this to me is just a bad product. I would much rather you improve the twist locks of the dumbbell options, as well as making better and stronger clamps that fit more dumbbell options in the future versus adding this into your, I guess, inventory. Make something better instead with the dumbbells, as that's where this product shines. So after all that being said, make sure that you go over to my other videos, including the cross grips for your doorway pull-ups, or using dumbbells with the Hyperbell, both barbell and easy curl bar versions. I'll throw some links in the descriptions to those reviews and the products, and you can also save some money by using code GAMERBODY at checkout if you decide to go with any for those other specific setups and stay away from these resistant bands, as again, this is not the option. I'll also put a link into my personal resistant band setup, as it's way better than this one in my opinion and will save you some money in the long run.